This meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees is called to order. We do have the presence of a quorum. The meeting has been duly called and the notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. Do we have any public participation today? We do not. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and we got a couple of action items to knock out. One is the consideration and action on an order calling a general election for the school board trustees, single member districts 2 and 4, which is Mr. Newsom and Dr. Nation. So, Dr. Crawford, do you have any comments on that particular item?
It's just per the election calendar, needs to be done by a certain date for the school system to actually call the general election and adopt this order.
Okay, well, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the order calling for the general election for districts 2 and 4.
Do I have a quicker second? Second. Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. All right, now moving on to, we have to consider an action on an interlocal agreement between Smith County and Tyler ISD for conducting elections. Same thing.
One little short comment here. We are certainly proud of the last year of work with Smith County Elections Office. Ms. Alicon has done a fabulous job in that role. Certainly, at least from this entity, she has done an exceptional job in regard to relationships and partnering with us and seeing what our needs are instead of just mandating what the county wants us to do. So it's been a true partnership. I want to say thank you for that. This is a normal process of us doing that since we do countywide elections and they run the elections for us.
Great. That's good to hear. Do I have a motion on that item?
I move we consider the action on an interlocal agreement between Smith County and Tyler Independent School District for conducting elections.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Moving on to continuous improvement and student outcomes, we have a T-test walkthrough evaluation update.
Per your board monitoring calendar, we have 3 items to present to the board. First one's going to be Executive Director of Human Resources, Ms. Sherry Taylor, who's going to give you an update on where we are in our walkthrough evaluations, a little bit about evaluations as well. Ms. Taylor.
Good morning, President Washington, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Crawford. So yes, we're going to do our fall update of T-Test real quick. Just a reminder, T-Test is a growth model that provides continuous communication between teachers and students and teachers and administrators. So the goal of T-Test is to move from a teacher-centered classroom to a student-centered classroom. There's 3 components of T-Test. It's goal setting, professional development. That's the first component. The second is your evaluation. That's your walkthroughs, your pre-conference, observation, post-conference, and summative conference. And finally, the third component is our student growth area. My apologies. I'm just going. Okay. So this is our walkthrough data for this year. We've conducted roughly 2,800 walkthroughs. That is an increase of 150 walkthroughs this time last year. Our walkthroughs are required to do 4 per teacher. That's the minimum. You can do as many as you would like on a teacher, and they're 10 to 20 minutes long. This allows feedback that's quick, and it focuses on a specific area for growth. This year, we have conducted almost 1,200 observations. This is an increase of 450 observations this time last year. Our administrators are getting in classrooms more often and providing that feedback so our instruction can improve sooner rather than later. Now, remember, they have to do 1 announced observation. They can do as many observations as needed, and they can be unannounced after the first one. Our observation allows feedback for teachers to make efficient and contextual professional development ideas to help the instructional practices as a whole, as opposed to just specific areas that the walkthrough allows. By monitoring our walkthroughs and observations, our chiefs of school leadership and deputy superintendents over schools are able to focus on specific needs of each campus and teacher, which allows for successful student outcomes and growth district-wide. Do we have any questions about the T-Test update?
Just real quick on the walkthrough versus an observation? You said a walkthrough is typically 10 or 20 minutes. What about an observation?
An observation has to be at least 45 minutes. We highly suggest that they go at the beginning of that class period to the end, so it could be longer than 45 minutes, because what you have to report is how did they tie the instruction into yesterday's assignment, and how are they going to provide that conclusion, that exit, along with tying it into the next day's instruction.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
What do you, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What do you attribute the, such an increase from last year at this time? Why, I mean, it's great.
I'll
It's
answer
awesome.
that. We've had a long-standing tradition here, at least for the last 8 or so years, to try to give ourselves Valentine's Day gifts by getting these things completed. School principalship and school administration, campus administration, it's a very busy job. Y'all can imagine that, going on field trips, planning for field trips, cafeteria duties, making sure that things are safe on the playground, et cetera. So getting that done by February allows us to get to that really busy spring season, getting that over with. Plus, what she said was making sure that we're getting the feedback when it matters the most. Getting these things done in April certainly don't do us any good instructionally, especially if we've got some hot spots that we need to improve instruction upon. Dr. Gropel? Appreciate you using the
Tasha
microphone.
made me turn it off. That's what it was. Tasha turned it off over here. I apologize. So we've also, with the CNI team in partnership with our campus leadership, been focused on the Texas Instructional Leadership Framework, which includes a component of observation and feedback. So our CNI department, as well as the majority of our campus leadership, have been through a training in the fall, which it increases an uptick in the amount of time and amount of observations, walkthroughs that we're providing feedback on, in addition to what Dr. Crawford shared.
Does the CNI department have a mascot? May I recommend a CNI dog?
Question. In regards to the 20-minute walkthrough, what's involved with that? The observation, I kind of have an idea, but walkthrough, 20 minutes, what are they doing?
So they are to look at either instruction or classroom environment, or they can do both. And typically when we do both, that's when it goes into about 20 minutes.
Okay.
But they do not have to meet all areas of the observation cycle. We
Okay.
suggest hone in on 2 or 3 and focus on that and give feedback on that. And then next time, pick two and three others and hone in on that as well.
Okay.
So who's allowed to do a walkthrough?
Campus administrators, so that would be your assistant principal, your campus dean, and your principal. They do the T-test walkthroughs. Now, sometimes you're gonna have maybe master teachers go and do an informal instructional walkthrough to help talk about student groups. Let's see how you're teaching a small group, and give feedback on that, but that is not a T-test walkthrough.
We also have CNI. Lance, you want to talk about that, Dr. Grover?
Yeah, so we've, as a part of some of our focused coaching support that we've been providing to several campuses, our CNI team, as well as the chiefs and myself, have been doing walkthroughs in classrooms, not typically documented in the data that you're seeing, but additional walkthroughs provided on a fairly regular basis with our CNI team and the chiefs and myself in classrooms.
And big win this year, we were actually invited to one of our comprehensive high schools. Mr. Jones actually let us go into a high school this year to
Huge win.
to
Huge
do
win.
that as well, because you know how high school people are. We all think we're pre-college, and I say that because I was a high school principal. So, pretty big win there, Miss Atkins. We always focus on K-8, and then being allowed to, go to the 912 campus is a big win for central administration, because they pretty much are arm's length on us. So, anyways, good stuff.
Well, and I will say, high school had the biggest growth in walkthroughs and second to biggest growth in observations this year.
Good job, Mr. Jones.
Is there a formal process to be qualified as a T-test appraiser? I'm guessing there.
Yes, sir, there is. You have to go through state training through AEL training, which is a leadership training, and then you do T-test training, and you go through their modules, and then you have to take a certification test and pass that in order to be an appraised T-test appraiser.
Okay.
an approved T-test appraiser.
Y'all
excuse me.
sometimes have like multiple months of us getting folks to y'all to approve T-test appraisers. It's a running joke that we should just leave that as a standing agenda item for 12 months. We try to get those done before the January at least. We would like to have those done in
August.
October, but certainly sometimes there's administrators that just get their certification or have not completed the training. In the old days, it was ILD and, what was the other one, Rojo? And ILT. ILT and ILD?
And T-tests.
Yeah. That's, T-test is the new one.
PDOS.
So, yeah.
MDOS?
PDOS, we have
Or
that too.
PDOS, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Now we have a District of Innovation and Teacher Certifications granted.
Yeah, Ms. Taylor's going to stay at the table and provide this. This is actually also part of the board monitoring calendar. It just seems like we did this. Did we do it back in November?
Yes, sir.
We did it back in November. So here we are again with District of Innovation. There might be a little bit extra data in there that I wanted to make some clarifications on. I think you're going to cover it. So
Well, and I do want to say that we actually have 21 individuals that earned their teaching certification between November and now. So that's great news. And so our number went down from 187 to 166. And again, having DOI allows us to have individuals with a bachelor's degree, an educated individual in the classroom as they're earning their teaching certification. And we do encourage campus administration to support these individuals in earning their certification as they go through the certification process. But we had 21 get certified.
That's great. What are universities, there's a terminology that they're using now about folks that are actually going through their process that are being paid. It's almost like a paid internship. What are those called now? They're teacher,
We
It's
do
part of
have
the-
some doing their intern. So it used to be clinical teaching.
Right.
But now I think we have one local university who's considering on having the individuals in the educational program go ahead and graduate.
Right.
And then do an internship, a paid internship, as
Right.
opposed to clinical teaching, get hired on as a DOI and teach, and then work through their teaching certification that way. But that hasn't been approved, not that I'm aware of, from this university. They're
No,
considering it.
but what I'm trying to convey here publicly, because I know there's been this question about DOI certified folks. Is there another page to this, by the way?
No, sir.
Yeah, there is right
Oh, I'm
there.
sorry. I think presentation, no, sir.
Yeah, so I'd say I looked at my packet. So I always look at my packet, but I'm just saying, the reason I'm saying that, I think there's a misconception out there about DOI teachers that we're just taking somebody off the street that has a science degree that is not inside of a program to gain teacher certification. And that's just not the case. There's all types of these avenues that are coming out of the universities. Ector County, for one, which is Odessa, they've got a partnership with University of Texas Permian Basin to where they're doing I should have wrote this down. There's a specific program to where they're actually paying these folks to be inside the classroom. So instead of just going to school all day and getting your teacher certification, these young adults, kids, are actually getting in and starting teaching classes. That's, in my opinion, and that just might be my opinion, but it does make a lot of sense. That's no different than what we do with the DOI. We've got these adults that are already degreed professionals that are getting in here, and they're also, and coincidentally, either going through an I Teach Texas or going through some other type of alternative certified program. And we don't leave these folks in there for very long unless their outcomes are
Correct.
producing for us. I think old school teacher certification person like me, there are some more older school folks that don't see it that way, but I see that as some value, that the outcomes are what matter. If kids are performing, that's something we need to look at. So we're not just plugging them in there and not expecting them to become a professional teacher unless they just have this gift to be able to do that. And we still want them to get certified. So on page 8 of your packet, kind of go over that, Ms. Taylor.
So currently, we have a few individuals that are waiting on their alt certification program requirements. And what that means is they might have to complete some modules before the program will give them an SOE, a statement of eligibility. And that's okay, because the modules are similar to what they would receive in classes if they were student teaching. So they're still getting some instruction while they're teaching our students. And then 109, all we're waiting on is for them to complete all of their certification tests. So they've already, if they're alt cert, they've already completed the modules. They might have passed 2 tests and we're waiting on a PPR test. It's just waiting on them to complete all the tests and pass all the tests. And sometimes it takes a little longer for some than what it does for others. They might have to retake a test 2, 3 times, 4, they have up to 5 times. But while they're doing that, we want to keep them on a DOI because they are providing quality instruction to our students as opposed to having an open classroom and putting a sub in there.
And these are their own DOI agreements with us right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so flip it back. So y'all are smart. What's the total on these 2 things? I can't see it. I don't have my
168.
168. So now flip it back over to the other
Fixed,
page.
sorry.
How many of those folks are there?
So it's a little bit less. So you have some teachers that their CTE or they don't require a certification for what they're teaching. They require that bachelor's degree, and we can hire them under DOE because it's a trade. For example, welding, auto mechanics.
Collision, yeah, exactly. So I guess my point on flipping these back and forth are that they are in the system and have a plan, a trajectory to get certified. And your school superintendent would have qualified in his first year of teaching, or my second year of teaching when I moved to Texas, on both the waiting on certification test and out of state waiting on TEA review of my teacher certificate credentials from Oklahoma.
Correct. And
So-
with and out of state, then they have a year to complete Texas certification test. They're
Right.
just on a DOI while they do that.
So in saying that, this is not new. I think that it's just kind of been another way for us to go ahead and do that instead of just plugging substitute teachers in to teach our kiddos. These are professional individuals that have a degree, degreed individuals that went to college like everyone up here on this table. And here we are. We've got a very professionally minded teaching force here as well. We've got 20 vacancies right now, I think, just
Yes,
for
sir.
full disclosure. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So that mid-year, either life change, things that have come along, a couple of them y'all have been familiar with, this job abandonment as well, have kind of gotten us as well. But that's a pretty good number right there. And I just wanted to make sure we went over top to bottom, front to back on what DOI really is for Tyler ISD. It is not just, we're going to pitch a contract, a teaching contract to just someone off the street. We are very protective of the education profession. We value teachers inside the classroom being professionals. This is just a different way to go about it and to address any type of the teaching shortage that's out there.
And just a reminder, if you don't mind, from the last presentation is what we're seeing in numbers as far as last year. We had a little over 12,000 individuals in the state of Texas go the alt-cert program, and then about 9,500 the traditional route. And even with those that went the traditional route, some we might have to put on DOI because they haven't had a chance to pass their test yet. So DOI has helped us immensely in this district.
I have a question about the test. After they've done their modules and they can take the test, they can retake the test, if they fail it, whatever. Is there a time limit that we give them that like you have to pass all your tests by this time?
This is where we work with the administration on the campus and say, okay, the individual has taken this test once or twice, and it's been about 6 months. Go ahead and encourage them to take it again and help them. Because the beauty about that test is you get those results and you decide, okay, you know what? I've passed everything but math. Help them with math. Help them to be successful in that area, that test, so they can get their certification. So it's just having those open and transparent conversations with the individuals. It's okay, show me your results, what are we lacking in, and then figure out a plan to help them at that point.
So do they get evaluated from their teaching place and T-test, or how do they get evaluated?
Yes, ma'am. So if they're through the Alt-Cert program, then they have a year and they have an individual that will come in and observe them through that year along with our campus administrations because they fall under T-test regardless. So yes, ma'am, they have that extra support and they get a mentor on campus and a district mentor. They fall under the same rules as a brand new teacher. So we provide that support for them for at least 3 years. And if they need it longer, we'll give them more support longer.
My son-in-law is going through this right now, and it's a lot more supervised and rigorous program than whenever I got my alternative certification in Oklahoma. I was paired with a mentor and given a big old social studies book, and I was met with twice by someone from the state, and that I was certified. So, hey, it's teacher residency. That's what a lot of universities are doing now. It's the same thing that you'd think in the medical profession, et cetera, before somebody becomes a fully certified MD or whatever, specialist or whatever they're in. That's what's going on here. So I think you can see that even our program, that model, is just not paired with a higher ed institution. Although Mr. Jones, I think, is on the search committee for the Dean of Education, or the Dean at the School of Education at UT Tyler right now. Right. So the College of Education, excuse me. That's something I think they're very interested in. We've had some preliminary meetings about that as far as teacher development goes, because we've had all these conversations about how higher ed is kind of becoming their focus has been on awarding master's degrees and doctoral degrees. So everybody wants to be a principal, everybody wants to be a superintendent. There's a lot of money to be made in that. Their focus should be on teacher education. And I think hopefully we're gonna see a shift in that, at least locally here with the new dean. So teacher residency, be looking for that terminology here soon.
Question regarding DOI. I know we're very fortunate to be in that category, but all schools in the state are not DOIs. So how, do you know how they're managing with the teacher shortage? They can't hire uncertified teachers, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
And
so what are they doing? Do
they're
you
in
know?
progress right now. There's probably 800 to 900 now DOI districts out of the 1,200 districts that are across the state. I will say this, if you look at their DOI plans, not all of them have the Vanguard plan like we have. We saw this coming during our first cycle of DOI. Whenever I was looking up and we had 50 vacancies, 60 vacancies, and they were all just being filled by subs, and we love our subs, we need them. But when you start talking about a teacher of record, someone who is an expert in maybe in the content area, that's something that's happened. So these districts that are not DOI right now are either in the process of doing that, or they're in the process of adjusting their DOI plan to allow it to be not as constrained, because most of them are just saying they can only hire in the CTE realm, which is welding and collision and other CTE courses. Now they're starting to talk about English degree professionals that might have wanted to be a journalist when they're coming out, and journalism has changed the way that they do business now. So now that's a pretty good pool to choose from for English teachers. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I can talk this all day.
Well, that was a good update. Thank you. And I think we have a class size update. Thank you.
921 DOI districts right now. Gina just looked it up, Ms. Orr did. All right, we have Tasha Bjork, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, better known as our CFO, that's going to provide you a report on our class size update.
And this again is a DOI initiative where we don't have to file waivers with the state when we go 22-1 through K through fourth grade. We are required to report it twice each semester to the board, and then we provide aid support for all the classrooms. And so the data for this semester is we have 17 monolingual classes and 13 bilingual classes that are over, and 22 students total on monolingual and 23 students total on bilingual. And on monolingual, you can tell they're focused on mainly two campuses, Caldwell and Jack. And Caldwell is intentional because they're trying to build their magnet. So they let more students in on each grade level. And then Jack is just one over on 7 classrooms. So that's the bulk of the students. And pretty much that's it. Any questions? Last time, we were 35 classes over and 51 students. So it's down a little bit.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this one?
Of course. I have a comment. Of course. No, I appreciate you looking at this and continuing to do it. I think that we need to, once again, I keep saying, thinking outside the box and look at things creatively and in light of everything that's coming down the pipes as far as the possibility of losing funding, the standardized tests getting harder, et cetera. I think that our elementary has to have that foundation. It's being prepared adequately. And I know that we've had challenges with individual groups of students. So I have a little proposal, and I can talk to Dr. Crawford and Dr. Gurpel about it a little bit more. But just an overview of it, it's a student outcome project proposal in which the purpose of it is to determine if a teacher's aide can make a difference in the classroom over a period of time, looking at standardized scores as the determining factor. The design of the program would be that you use 2 classrooms. You allow a teacher's aide to be in one classroom. In the other classroom that's not a teacher's aide, you compare to have the students to take the exam before and then at the end of the period of time that we're looking at, and see if that teacher's aide being in that classroom make a significant difference. Significant difference will be determined by the individuals that's actually proposing the project. But looking at that and evaluating if adding an aide to the elementary level would make a difference in the outcome of the scores, because we're going to be challenged greatly in the next year or so regarding our scores with the projections of districts dropping a letter grade. I think that we have to look very creatively to get on the cutting edge of this and to be able to help prevent our kids from falling so far behind. If we can do this through a study, and I even project it as far as funding, if TISD can't do it within our budget, we look at possibly going to the foundation, seeing if they will provide a grant so that we can look at this small group to study it and see the outcomes of it. And then there are external grants that you can get for educational purposes that you can possibly look at for funding to do this particular project. So I really think that we need to be very creative in that aspect. I think we have the capabilities of doing it within the district, looking at a small group and determining what is making a difference. And I think we need to do a lot more of those type things internally to see if we can get on the cutting edge of, getting a jump of the grades dropping and all the things that's coming down the line. Hopefully that won't happen, but we know that the standardized test is likely to be not real good results. So that's one thing that's going to affect us for sure. But then in light of that, the budgets may be cut this year, depending on how legislature votes. So all these things in mind, I think that we really need to be jumping on it to the point that even in our curriculum, I think an innovative committee or something looking at ideas to really make that bridge that gap in our educational areas would be beneficial from that perspective. I don't know if we have an innovative portion of the curriculum that we look at those things or not. But I'm really concerned about that because there's a big push for a lot of changes that's going to affect us in public schools.
Couple of
Just
Go ahead.
to clarify, in your idea there, are you talking about adding an aide regardless of class size, just to see if, just every classroom?
No.
Kids.
This is 2 classrooms within the district that we pull out and we look at. We put a teacher's aide in one,
Right.
and the other classroom that's in the study we don't look at.
Right,
We don't put a teacher's aide, but we want to compare the similar classrooms with similar attributes so you can actually see if the teacher's aide make a difference. This is kind of the scientific approach that we use in the medical profession in regards to looking at things objectively, making sure that you do look at the definite outcomes and specifying exactly what you want to get. But you can use a smaller group. You can use a larger group, but I'm proposing the smallest possible group, which would be 2 classrooms that we will actually look at and have a teacher's aide in one, and the other one would not have similar attributes, similar class size, et cetera, and then see if that teacher's aide make a difference in a period of maybe 6 months to a year, if we could do it that long. But it all depends on the funding in regards to it. But looking at it and actually seeing objectively if that teacher's aide made a difference in those scores for that period of 6 months, a period of a year. And I think that that would be one way that we can look at it. I think that there are other ways, and that's why I made the suggestion about the innovative part of the curriculum, actually individuals actually looking at it based on what's across the country innovatively that will work within our structure to make a difference in the scores that we're seeing that's not really decreasing or increasing like we'd like for them to. And, you know, we talk about student outcome, so that would definitely look at that, and we're going to have to really get on top of it. I know that we have some things in the makings right now that we're doing, but I think this is something that we possibly could do that wouldn't cost a lot of money, hopefully, and it would be a very minimal as far as changing anything that they're actually doing in the classroom. And that the only thing that would change would be adding that teacher's aide to the classroom environment versus in the other classroom, there would not be a teacher's aide.
So we have teachers' aides in these classrooms with like one kid over, right? We're adding teachers' aides for the kids with that are over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Correct.
that's
So
only
we're-
if they're
we've
over
got-
22.
Yeah,
Plus,
so
we have a
let's-
lot of other teacher aides
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's just say,
that
so
they
we're,
buy with Title I.
so we're saying let's say we've got a classroom with 23.
Right.
And we've got a teacher's aide in
Right.
there. Should be another classroom already. You could kind of compare that data to.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that,
Well, I was going to say that if you did that, I'd say you ran heavy with one class, because just triggering a class with 23 kids versus a class of 22 kids,
Well-
I'd say that you would go ahead and run heavy on the class with the aide and the teacher, and then run a little bit lighter on the classroom without the teacher.
Right. Well,
So I understand that. I do want to say this, since the media is here today, we're coming off our best year ever accountability-wise.
Right.
So I don't want any perceptions to be that this is the Tyler ISD of 9 years ago or 10 years ago. So I just want to make sure that we're saying this in prognostication of the psychometric adjustment in the STAR test that's coming down the pike that's going to affect every Texas school system. And then the dip in ratings will also be impacted because the Texas Education Agency has changed what the CCMR, the College Career Military Readiness scoring system, looks like. 60% of that is going to be made of kids that have already graduated. So let's not say that the dip that we're all anticipating in the state, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but I want to make sure this is
Right.
being conveyed again, especially after I had a little trip to Austin yesterday in regard to this stuff, is that those are the factors. We do need to improve instruction. We had a great year last year. We do think that the agency and an unchecked agency on the design of the STAR and the accountability system is going to impact all school systems. We're worried about Tyler, all school systems, and there does need to be some innovative practices to kind of target some of that stuff. So that was a whole lot in that gumbo statement right there. But I think there's a whole lot to unpack there as to just someone showing up and watching this business meeting,
Right.
thinking that we need to try some more innovative practices, which we do. But again, I'll go back to the saying that we want to maintain the level of success that we have, with the understanding that that dip that we've talked about, the significant proportion of that is going to be the adjustment in the CCMR based upon 60% based of it on kids that don't even go to school in Tyler anymore. We've already graduated them. We've already deemed them successful in the old accountability system. Now you're going to come back and say that 60% of that's been adjusted. They weren't good enough. So interesting how they did not release this prior to the November elections, but here we are.
okay.
in relation to that, just a comment, because in I try to do my research. Jones Elementary, from what I understand, used to have a program very similar to this. I don't know how many years ago. One of the teachers was talking to me about it, and said they had a program very similar to this where they provided aides. I don't know if they was in every classroom, but they provided aides at a certain level, and those kids did do much better. And said that campus was very successful to the point that they had kids wanting to transfer in that couldn't transfer in because they were doing better academically. So there has been something apparently in the past within the district where a school campus did look at that, and I think it was Jones,
You're the resident historian,
So
Ms.
I don't
Bjork.
know who it was.
If they did, I don't remember it.
Yeah.
And it was probably with Title I funds. It's not anything the district would have
Right.
funded.
So has Jones always made, I mean, here we go, start talking about how we fund our campuses and how we built our campuses. This is history. When you can throw a baseball and hit Jones from Pete, and
Right.
throw a baseball from Pete and hit Jones.
Right.
Has Jones always been a smallish campus?
It was over there where the old Andrews
I
Center.
understand, I know where it was at, but was
And-
it a smallish
Yeah,
enrolled campus?
really small.
Same thing with Pete as well? Okay.
It's-
But Title I campus, traditionally, historically, it's been a Title I campus, and the principal has discretion on how she allocates those Title I dollars?
Yes, I'm guessing what he's talking about was probably back in the Michael Barrier days.
Okay?
And Jones was, if I remember right, was in the very, very, very first bond, the proposal was to close Jones. Because it was so small.
Yeah.
And that bond failed.
Yeah.
and The community was upset,
Yeah.
you know, and so Jones ended up getting a new campus.
Yeah,
when
I'm
it came
just
back through.
trying to get some historical information out there on how small the campus is and being able to take that to scale. You know, whether or not if you take an Orr who's got
They have,
700 kids,
well, they're close.
close, yeah, that'd be a little bit different than maybe trying to do the Jones thing. So there's some advantages to the smallish sizes that you might have on operating something like that versus a larger campus as well. So we can certainly try to dig up
Well,
that
there's-
statement there.
If there's one thing we have plenty of over my 10 years of service here, I know it's data.
Yeah.
It's data. So I'm sure
Well,
so that can be mined
And I
and
was,
looked at.
yeah, and I was really trying to get to the point of, we've got these campuses and we will try to adjust attendance boundaries when we can to keep them adequately enrolled, even though there might, in their existing attendance zone, that just may be gentrifying, it may be getting older, and not having as many kids. So when you traditionally keep a campus open for the sake of tradition, we're not gonna close it, so I wanna make sure that's not out there. Then your staff to student ratio may not be quite what it is versus a campus whose enrollment is busting at the seams. So you're gonna be tightly packed at a Jack and somewhere else, whereas you're gonna look at a Jones that might have smaller class sizes because, you know, we're not gonna move a campus that had been historically underperforming. They're doing a great job now under Dr. Crane. And level off. Leveling is something we always have that in our toolkit at the first of the year. We haven't done a lot of leveling. In larger school systems, you level all the time. Move a teacher from one campus to another to help with some unpredictable enrollment bursts. So some of our campuses, like a Jones, like a Pete, already have smallish class sizes as well. So that would be something to probably consider is, could you look at what Mr. Newsom's talking about and encourage the principal to reallocate their teacher's aides in a certain way and run heavy in one class, so you've got two folks that are possibly working with a heavier class load, and then maybe a teacher that's expert can handle a class size of maybe 12. You're gonna have two on 30 over here, one on 12 over here. Is that what we're kind of saying?
Now, what I'm proposing is not changing anything at this point, looking at the class size the way it is and keeping everything the way it is right now. The
Yeah.
only thing you change is adding that teacher's aide for all day in that classroom. So we can talk about it in more detail. I don't want to take up the board's time talking about the details. I'll be glad to sit down and talk to you and make sure you understand exactly what I'm proposing from this perspective.
We can do
And,
that, but I
we can
understand.
do
I
that.
just,
I
I
don't
would
want
have
to
a
take up any
different
more of
approach
your
of
time.
it, probably. But that's fine.
Okay, well, it's good discussion. I think it's more of a do aides help, and if they do, or, yeah. So, okay, well, thank you for the class size update, Ms. Bjork. We will now go into executive session, and we do have some stuff to follow, I do believe, so.
Teacher residency. Say it 5 times. Teacher residency, teacher residency, teacher residency, teacher residency. Now I won't forget it. Yeah.
I mean, they've had action before. see that, just anywhere? Anywhere, anywhere, anywhere. Yes, sir. Oh, take your time, I'm not in a rush. You're welcome.
Okay, we're reconvening from executive session. We have one item to cover regarding level 3 grievance. Do I have a motion on that item?
Okay. I move that we accept the recommendation at level 2 level in regards to the decision regarding this particular situation.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion for adjournment. Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. I feel like I'm on feet.